Now give me audio test. Run it back, Philly, behind the scenes community show setup. Better? It's been good the whole time on playback, but the audio is crap on YouTube. So far, so good. That might be StreamYard too. StreamYard. Some people are saying clear as day. Some people are saying still bad. This is on YouTube. Okay, we're good. We're good. I decided to use StreamYard instead of OBS. That might be a bad idea now that I'm getting bad audio feedback. But anyway, yeah, that's what we're doing. We're streaming everywhere and we're covering everything I want to cover. So thank you for tuning in. And every day at 10 a.m. Every day that I can do it at 10 a.m. right now. Eventually, I want it to be 10 a.m. every day. Shout out to everybody in here. Let's get right down to business. If you're on YouTube, hit the like button. Help push this stream out there. Get me more views. Get me in the YouTube algorithm. We got 75 people in here already. We got a bunch of people in the playback chat. Thanks for hanging out. So I know there's definitely some things that you want me to talk about, all right? Last night on Easter, yesterday on Easter, the Philadelphia 76ers played the Brooklyn Nets in the last game of the season. I don't understand why the last game of the season is on Easter. If I was an NBA player, I would be like, hey, I don't want to play in this game. A meaningless game on Easter. Thanks a lot, NBA. Thanks a lot for a meaningless game on Easter. But, you know, players that don't normally get run on the NBA floor got to play in the game. Nobody played. Yeah, somebody threw in the chat, before I get into that, somebody threw in the chat that yesterday Rudy Gobert for the Minnesota Timberwolves was sent to the locker room and didn't come back in the game because he punched his own teammate. He punched Kyle Anderson in the huddle. I don't know if you guys saw that or not. If you didn't, go check it out. Find it on YouTube or Twitter or something. But I just think it's funny because when the Rudy Gobert trade went down, I called it the worst trade in NBA history. And I mean, what is happening in Minnesota? You gave up 5 first-round picks for Rudy Gobert. He punched his own teammate, got sent to the locker room, didn't come back. So I just want to let you know that if you're anytime you are down on the Sixers, anytime you're down on the moves that we make, the things that we've done, the bad trades, the bad draft picks or draft picks that were number 1 overall and didn't work out or what have you, at least we didn't give up 5 first-round picks for Rudy Gobert. At least we didn't do that. So you can always turn to teams like the Minnesota Timberwolves or the Brooklyn Nets right now and feel a little bit better about the Philadelphia 76ers and all of the decisions that they make. I didn't see his Twitter apology, but I'm sure it was interesting. All right, so the Sixers deep bench against the Nets deep bench, and they stomp them. They absolutely stomp them by almost 30 points, and I have some takes on it. Nobody played for the Nets. Mikal Bridges checked in and played 1 minute. He checked in and fouled intentionally and checked back out just to continue his healthy game playing streak. He has yet to miss a game in his NBA career. So that was interesting. I guess, yeah, you know, you don't want to ruin that streak because there's a meaningless game at the end of the season. So he checks in, fouls, checks back out. I said last game was not a G League game. Like, that's what it's hard to assess because the last game that we played when we were playing Jaden Springer and Mac McClung and everybody, we were playing a healthy team, a healthy playoff team, the Atlanta Hawks. Not a great team, but still a healthy playoff team with a lot of talent on the floor. Trae Young and DeJounte Murray and Clint Capella and all those guys. So I thought the Sixers deep bench looked great against a healthy, at least NBA level, playoff level team. This game, you got to take with a grain of salt because you were playing not only the Nets, who just traded Kyrie and Kevin Durant and were left with whatever they got in return, which I think they got some good pieces in return, but even their best players didn't play. So you can't really assess it. And I just want to say, let's not overhype certain NBA players or certain deep bench fringe NBA players, high level G League players, fringe NBA players, because they put up points against the Brooklyn Nets backups. You know what I'm saying? That's what I want to say first of all, because a lot of people are in my Twitter, in my comments, and everywhere talking about Mac McClung and how he should be a rotational player in the playoffs for the Sixers. And I like Mac, and I'm gonna give you my opinion on what he looked like in this game, but you can't really assess much from this game. If you did watch this game, I want to let you know you're a psychopath. Okay, it was Easter. It was Easter, and it was a meaningless game. It was the last game of the season. I tuned in when I could. I was on my phone. I was doing, Easter things, family things, but you're not really a psychopath. You're a hardcore Sixers fans. That's what we are here. That's why you're here, and that's why you guys were tuning into that game. And you just love ball. We like watching basketball. I like watching basketball. I'll tune into a basketball game. And there were certain players, obviously, that you got to see that you want to see if they have potential on an NBA floor. All kinds of crazy things happen in this game. At one point, I saw Dwayne Dedmon ISO and shoot a step back mid-range jump shot. That's how insane this game was. You could look at that specific play and say, oh, Dwayne Dedmon has some game and he should be playing. He should be, he should have rotational minutes. Dwayne, you can take specific plays in a game like this and try to make a case. But it is what it is. Cam Thomas scored 46 points on us. That's good for the Brooklyn Nets. That's a young player that, could be a future star in this league. I know, again, it was against the Sixers deep bench, but any guy that drops 46 points in an NBA game seems to maybe have potential for the future. So the Nets can look at him and Mikal Bridges and a couple others and at least feel good about their future, I guess, after the whole Kyrie, Durant, Harden thing imploded as DJ Eastwood predicted it would implode. They're left again to try to start over again. So I was right about that. I was right about the Rudy Gobert trade. I was right about Ben Simmons. What can I say? What can I say? It's easy stuff. It's easy. Korkmaz dropped 40 too. Yeah, in a summer league game. You never know what you're going to see in meaningless games. If Ben Simmons played in this game, the Sixers would have lost. Ben would have dropped the 45-point triple-double. That's how meaningless this game was. Anyway, let's read the stats from the game and start from there, okay? Because I definitely have opinions on a couple of things. The first thing I have opinions on is why Jaden Springer didn't play in this game. And we're all jumping to conclusions, and it's a tough one, all right? But let's go over the stats of the game first, try to pull some things from it, and then we'll talk about why I think Jaden Springer didn't play in this game. Shake Milton, 20 points, 8 assists, coming off of a 16-assist game before. Shake Milton, I don't know. I don't know. Sometimes he looks good. Sometimes he looks bad. Doc loved him when he dropped 39 against the Lakers. Doc's gone back to playing him 5 minutes a game sometimes. You just never really know what's about to happen with Shake Milton and Doc Rivers. And Paul Reed, 17 and 10, 4 offensive rebounds, a plus 16, 2 steals, 5 blocks. You could have predicted that. Paul Reed's clearly an NBA rotational player at this point, G League MVP when he was in the G League, you know what I mean? So I don't think, and now he plays in a game like this against essentially G League talent, and he absolutely dominates, at least defensively, with 5 blocks, 17 points, 10 rebounds. Paul Reed is that backup center. Will Paul Reed be the full-time backup center in the playoffs? I hope so. But we still have this unpredictable force, this unpredictable energy who just happens to be in control of everything, Doc Rivers. So I can't call it. Jaden Springer played 2 minutes in the game. We're going to talk about that in a minute. Mac McClung had 20 points off the bench, 9 rebounds, 9 assists, was a plus 29. And he played great in a couple of those those G League games, the G League finals games, and he played great in the G League the whole year. Should Mac McClung be a rotational player for the 76ers this season? In the play, I can't go playoffs. I will say this. A says no in the chat. Let's look at it this way. The old school way of valuing Philadelphia 76ers players. Let's go old school. Is he better than Furkan Korkmaz? That's what you always got to say. Because the Sixers release players with an open roster spot like Isaiah Joe. The Sixers keep players on the deep bench that get no run whatsoever. And then you got players in the G League who can come up to the NBA and drop 20 points off the bench, against essentially G League talent. But is he better than Furkan Korkmaz? I think I'll take Mac McClung in one of my last roster spots in the regular season over a couple of players that are on this roster. I will say that. But, some people coming at me and saying, watch Mac McClung's highlights, look what he can do. This kid's, you just kind of like, you can't really overrate him based on this game or, the G League finals games. You just can't say that. He's had run with other NBA teams, a short stint with the Lakers. He's gotten opportunities. The problem with Mac McClung is that he's 6'1" and he can't guard anybody in the NBA. He just can't. We know he can dunk. He has a little bit of a combo game. He has a little bit of ball handle game, a transition game. He has a nice 3-point shot. A couple of times in this game, he hit some wide open threes. A couple of times in the last game and those G League finals games, he hit some threes. There was a play where Cam Thomas went under a screen and he made him pay by hitting a three right over the top. I like that. That's something I'm not seeing from certain players on the very deep end of the bench for the Sixers. So I guess that's how I got to look at it, dude. Do I think Mac McClung at least deserves one of those last roster spots maybe next season? I don't know. But I saw him hit that three. The problem is Cam Johnson comes down the other end and Cam Thomas, comes down the other end and shoots right over Mac, right over him. Didn't make a move. Didn't try to call for a screen. Nothing. Just shot over top of him because he's 6'1". So it's tough. He's fun. He has a lot of energy. He's a ton of athleticism. Obviously, the kid is doing 360 through the legs dunks in high school. But to be 6'1" and not really be able to guard anybody, you got to have some elite. You have to have something elite to get by in the NBA, like a Trey Young ball handling and vision, like something like that. I'm not really seeing it. I just think he's too small, unfortunately. What else do I have on Mac McClung? There was a play against that's the one over the screen. Patty Mills shot over him also. I saw that. And to be that size, you're going to have to have something elite in the NBA. So the people that are hitting me up on Twitter and Instagram and everywhere else and saying, Mac deserves a chance. I don't know. I'm not really seeing it. He's had short chances in the NBA so far. I'm not saying he shouldn't be in the NBA though. I will agree that he should probably be at least on teams like the Sixers, the end of the Sixers bench. I would say there's no reason for Mac McClung to not be a deep bench player on the NBA, in the NBA, on an NBA team, on this roster. When you look at guys like Korkmaz, who never gets any run, or who else is down there? Montrezl Harrell never plays anymore, which don't hold your breath on that one because Doc Rivers is approaching the playoffs. And Doc Rivers approaching the playoffs scares me no matter what. No matter what. Doc Rivers approaching the playoffs scares me. Jaden Springer in this game only played 2 minutes. And I know the first thing people are saying when Jaden Springer only plays 2 minutes. So I was in a car on a way to a family event, and I'm looking at the stats and I'm saying in the first quarter, and I'm saying, why is Jaden Springer only have 2 minutes in this game? And I asked it on Twitter. Somebody in here said he was hurt. Somebody in one of these chats just a couple minutes ago said he was hurt. Were you talking about Jaden Springer? Because I didn't hear that he was hurt. Nobody replied to me on Twitter saying that he was hurt. No, I was riding in the passenger seat, Kopik. I was riding in the passenger. Was he hurt? Did you guys hear that Jaden Springer had an injury, that he didn't come back in the game? What happened? Why did he only play 2 minutes? Doc said it post-game. What did he say? Doc said that in the G League Finals, he got hurt, so Doc was resting him. Hurt his ankle in the G League Finals. Okay, fair enough. That makes sense. Well, either way, I wanted to cover the topic because Jaden Springer has some ability. Jaden Springer has started to look like a player that Daryl Morey drafted in the first round. And I do think most NBA teams, at least throughout the regular season, most NBA coaches, aside from Doc Rivers and probably Tom Thibodeau, would be experimenting with players like Jaden Springer throughout the season. They would be putting him on the floor here and there for 5 minutes, especially when a team looks like the Sixers have looked in certain parts of the season where they're stagnant, they're getting beat in transition, they look terrible defensively on the perimeter in certain games. You would think, I would bet that there's a lot of NBA coaches that would say, hey, I got this kid on my bench who's a fantastic perimeter defender, a fantastic one-on-one defender, has maybe more athleticism than anybody on the whole roster, and can play defense, can shoot the three, can handle the ball, can drive to the rim. I've seen it on a G League level. I've seen it in garbage time in NBA games. A lot of coaches would experiment with that throughout the regular season. Unfortunately, the Philadelphia 76ers have the one coach in the history of the NBA that has flat out never experimented with anybody ever, unless he's experimenting with a 40-year-old veteran minimum player that they just signed 2 weeks before the playoffs. That was a George Hill reference. Shake Milton saves a game in the playoffs. Tyrese Maxey saves a game in the playoffs when he's a rookie, and Doc Rivers goes with George Hill in Game 7, and the Sixers lose. But all of that was because Ben Simmons was a fraud and couldn't play point guard, and every time it came down to it, you had to panic, try to find a point guard. But Doc always goes with the older guy. I do think a lot of NBA coaches would have experimented with Jaden Springer at some point in the regular season. The regular season is the time to experiment. He's only 20 years old, but I do think he brings value to an NBA team. And who knows what he could have looked like by the time the playoffs come around if he would have gotten a chance throughout the regular season. Now we play a couple of games with where the starters sit, and Jaden Springer looks great in a lot of these games. It was always the shot for me that I didn't know if he would develop. He reminded me of Zaire Smith when I first saw him. I was like, this is the same thing. This Zaire Smith was a player that was drafted on physicality, athletic ability, and then it was like, but if he learns how to play basketball, he's going to be great. And I was kind of just tired of seeing the Sixers draft that, but if he learns to play basketball player, you know what I mean? Matisse Thybulle, same situation. Freak athlete. If we can teach him how to play basketball, he can be amazing. You know, and Jaden Springer, when we first drafted him, that's kind of what I thought. I was like, here's another one who's just a great athlete. And if we can teach him how to play basketball, he can be great. He's developing. This might be the first player the Sixers have drafted in my lifetime that I've seen actually be developed in the G League and like minor leagues, if you will, of the NBA in our development staff. This is the first player that I've seen go from what he looked like when he was drafted to this. Tyrese Maxey, of course, but Tyrese Maxey was just kind of he's a self-developer. If you follow him on Instagram or follow anything he's ever done, his work ethic is crazy. If Jaden Springer has that same work ethic, who knows how good he can be? Maybe it was a call from someone up top. You know, maybe someone up top said, hey, Doc, this kid can play. Let's find out. I don't know. What are the chances you see Jaden Springer in the playoffs? I'm going to ask you guys first. Read your answers, and then I'll give you mine. Dan Shryock says 0. Austin Baker says 5%. What are the chances you see him in the playoffs, and do you think he should get playoff minutes with the 76ers? 0 chance. Rashawn Shaw, 0 chance. Tube Champs, Smooth Master, 0, 0, 0. I hope I'm wrong. Tim Starr, I don't think we'll see him 1 second. Ron says 0. Because Doc rested him, I say a 50% chance. Vincent, 50% chance. All right. That's interesting. There's 2 things here. There's 2 reasons I think we're not going to see Jaden Springer in the playoffs. Number 1, if Doc Rivers went the whole season not playing a player, not even experimenting with a player, not even trying to put him in any lineup the whole season, and then he plays 2 games at the end of the season when the starters rest, and he looks so good defensively, and he looks good enough on the offensive end, and he looks like he brings something that the Sixers are missing, and it's so evident that you then make him a part of the playoff rotation, that would make you look inept as an NBA coach. Some NBA coaches would be humble enough and have enough of a lack of ego to say, hey, this kid looked great in these 2 games. This kid stuck Trae Young one-on-one. Something even Ben Simmons, unless you ask Ben Simmons himself, but something even Ben Simmons couldn't do in the playoffs. This kid stuck Trae Young in the final possession of a game to force it to overtime. One-on-one. I'm going to use him in the playoffs. I'm going to try a couple of different lineups. If he looks terrible, then we'll back out, especially against the Brooklyn Nets, who don't stand a chance against the Sixers. Let's not even sugarcoat that. This first round matchup would be a good time to experiment with Jaden Springer in the lineup. But I think you would have to be very humble as an NBA coach to be able to say to yourself, I didn't give this kid a chance the whole season. I was wrong. He looks like he has some potential. He looks like he could help us out. I'm going to see what he can do in certain lineups in this first round matchup against the Brooklyn Nets. That would take a humble coach. Doc Rivers is 100% not doing that. Doc Rivers is 1,000% not doing that. You've seen Paul Reed play games where he looked like he was clearly the best backup center option on the roster. And the very next series, Doc Rivers went to DeAndre Jordan. He went to Paul Millsap. He went to whoever else. It's flat out not going to happen. Doc has this thing where he's terrified, it seems, to play young players in big spots. When it comes to the playoffs, you're going to see a lot of PJ Tucker. You're going to see a lot of Tobias Harris. Hopefully, at least by now, you see a lot of Paul Reed at backup center, but we'll see. You might see Dwayne Dedman. You might see Montrezl Harrell. Because when it comes to the playoffs and it comes to Doc, I just don't have a good feeling about him playing young players. So I would say straight up, no, you're not going to see Jaden Springer in the playoffs. You got the chances of Doc Rivers playing Jaden Springer in the playoffs. You're going to see a lot of George Niang for sure. The chances of you seeing Doc Rivers play Jaden Springer in the playoffs are the same chances as Ben Simmons coming out, suiting up for the Nets in the playoffs and shooting 3-pointers. It's flat out not going to happen. But I love what I've seen from Jaden Springer so far. I absolutely love that he got these opportunities at the end of the season in some of these games where all of the starters sat. We see that he has potential now. Maybe he had it the whole time and we just didn't see it because he wasn't getting an opportunity at all. Cough, cough, Isaiah Joe. Maybe we're totally wrong, but I like it because moving into next season, I think you have a player that you can throw into the rotation and build on for the future because he's 20 years old. Jalen McDaniels is 24. Tyrese Maxey is 22. D'Anthony Melton is 24. So I like what Daryl Morey is doing, trying to win right now, but also trying not to bottom out when this whole thing's over. Because this process era, if it's a total failure, you don't want to fall straight off a cliff and have nothing left. You want to have something to move forward with in the future. And look, you didn't go balls to the wall. You didn't give up 7 first-round picks for somebody. You didn't give up 5 first-round picks for a Rudy Gobert, try to stuff him next to Joel. It hasn't been perfect, but I like what Daryl Morey's done. Trying to win now and at least trying to give you something to move forward with if none of this works. That's where I'm at. My other notes on the game was Lewis King. Lewis King, 20 points off the bench. I was watching the G League highlights the other day. I posted those on YouTube. Somehow didn't get demonetized. I don't know how I showed live highlights and didn't get demonetized. I guess they don't give a shit about the G League highlights. So maybe I'm allowed to post G League highlights and get away with it. I don't know. But I was saying when I watched those highlights that I really liked Lewis King. I really thought he had some potential. He's a 6'7" wing. He looks like he has a little bit of game, a little bit of offensive game, can shoot a 3, can handle the ball maybe. Again, it was in a G League game, and then it was in a game against the Nets. Backups. So who really knows? But Lewis King might have something also. And somebody sent me, the last thing before I get into what I think about the first round matchup is somebody sent me a screenshot of James Harden training, running stairs. First thing I thought was, please no stairs, James. Stay away from the stairs. Remember last year, he looked good for like the first 4 games he joined the 76ers, and then he ran the stairs after a game for no reason, and then he looked terrible a large stretch of the way, especially in the playoffs against athletic teams. He looked like he had no bounce. He didn't look healthy. James is probably the biggest question mark for me right now because he looked great this season. Obviously, he led the NBA in assists. Joel Embiid led the NBA in points. It's the first time since 1981 that a player on a team led the NBA in points and another player led the NBA in assists. He looked great most of the season. My nervousness comes from how he looked down the stretch, and then he missed a couple of games with a sore Achilles. Looked terrible in some games, looked good in some games. It's just the inconsistency. I guess I'll say James Harden for me is the biggest question mark on whether or not the Sixers can get out of the second round. I hope he's healthy. I hope he's got that bounce. I hope we get the best version of him, but we'll just have to wait and see. But apparently he was working out running stairs yesterday. So we'll see. I don't know. I hope the Achilles isn't sore anymore. I hope he got enough rest. I hope he's been, eating good, going to bed at night, not partying with little baby until 5 a.m. Who knows? We'll see when the playoffs start. But I think that's my biggest question mark moving into the playoffs is James Harden. What do you guys think? What do you guys got in the chat? What do you guys think is what's your biggest fear, I guess, moving into the playoffs? Shane says Lewis King for dumbass Niang. You know what? That's the thing when you see some of those players perform in games like that. It's like, are some of these players more serviceable than a guy like George Niang that Doc's been playing like 25 minutes a game, it feels like? Isaac's biggest fear is Doc Rivers. That's a given too. I think I just skip over that at that point. At this point, I think I just skip over the whole Doc Rivers thing. I think I just accept it is what it is. There's nothing I can do about it. I don't even really bring it up anymore. I say, in conversation that I have no faith in Doc Rivers, but when I list like my fears moving towards the playoffs, I don't even really list Doc Rivers anymore. It's like an automatic, I guess. Or maybe I'm just tired of harping on it. Trey said not surviving the non-Embiid minutes. Bench inconsistency is the biggest fear. Yeah, that's a good one. That's a good one. It's wild. These last couple of games, it looks like the Sixers' deep bench is better than their real bench. So we're going to find that out. We're going to find that out for sure. Tube champ Harden is the big guy that was supposed to get the Sixers over the hump. If he fails to live up to expectations, it falls on Morey. I think it falls on Morey. I think it also falls on Harden. And, if I don't think they're going to get out of the second round anyway, but I don't think it's going to be specifically James Harden's fault. I think it's the fact that the Boston Celtics, I think, are the deepest, strongest team in the NBA right now. And that's just the luck of the draw. I think the Sixers, again, stand a chance in a 7-game series against basically everybody in the NBA outside of the team that they're about to match up with in the second round. And that sucks because if it wasn't for the Boston Celtics in the second round, I do think the Sixers would make it to the NBA Finals or stand a chance at making it to the NBA Finals. I think they'd stand a chance against the Bucks in the Eastern Conference Finals. I think they'd stand a chance in a 7-game series against anybody in the West. I just don't think they can beat the Boston Celtics in a 7-game series. Now, if you're on the optimism side of things, you can say, hey, look, they did play the Boston Celtics fully healthy a couple of games ago, not the last game that they played, but I think the one before that, and they went down to the wire, and Jason Tatum hit a game-winning step-back three. Like, we were right there. So if we were right there in that game, could we be right there in enough games to actually stand a chance in a 7-game series? Maybe. But that's my take on that. Anthony Hans, thanks for the super chat. PJ Toby lineups will get us smoked by the Celtics. Exactly, bro. It's just not good. The combination of a 6'5" power forward and a 6'8" power forward who's slow, unathletic, doesn't rebound, doesn't box out, doesn't even guard, lets guys go backdoor left and right, gets beat in transition all the time, misses wide open layup. Don't even get me started on Tobias Harris. Yeah, the combination of those two guys right now just doesn't look good. It doesn't. PJ Tucker had a great game the last game that he played, and rumors were that it was because James Harden made the decision for him to be in the corner instead of the dunker spot. Why the hell is Doc Rivers putting him in a dunker spot? I don't know. But is Doc Rivers going to listen to James Harden in the playoffs? Probably not. We're talking about Doc Rivers. We're talking about a guy who listens to only one person, and that is himself. So, but I agree. That's a good one. That's something moving towards the playoffs. That's vocal leader. That's probably, going to be, if we fall hard to the Celtics, I think I would probably look at that also. All right. Sixers versus Nets first round matchup. The first thing I want to say is I remember when we went down to the wire with the Nets in one of those games right after they traded Kevin Durant, and we gave up 62 combined points to Kyrie Irving and Seth Curry. And there was reporters on Twitter, Sixers reporters, I'm not going to name them by name, calling the Brooklyn Nets the deepest team in the NBA. The deepest team in the NBA. And I was like, how are they calling them the deepest team in the NBA? And I was saying, dude, they're going to trade Kyrie Irving. Like, you didn't just trade Kevin Durant to try to build around Kyrie Irving. Cancer Kyrie's out of here. And they, a couple days later, traded Kyrie Irving so he could go to the Dallas Mavericks and they could miss the playoffs versus making the playoffs without him last year. Cancer Kyrie is Cancer Kyrie. But they were calling the Nets the deepest team in the NBA after that game, and I thought that was funny because they're not the deepest team in the NBA. You have to have strong superstar level players to be considered the deepest team in the NBA, in my opinion. You can't just have a bunch of role players. I'm not trying to discredit Mikal Bridges whatsoever. I think Mikal Bridges can be great in the NBA moving forward in the next couple of years in his career. He can be, who knows? The sky's the limit for him. But to call a team the deepest team in the NBA, I think they got to have star level players and then the role players. That's what deepness is to me. You can't just not have the star players, and because you have a bunch of role players, you're the deepest team in the NBA. I don't believe that. The Boston Celtics are the deepest team in the NBA. It is what it is. Jason Tatum, Jaylen Brown, and then the whole roster. It's just a strong roster. But I don't think the Nets are deep at all. I don't think the Nets stand a chance in this series whatsoever. Will they sweep? Will the Sixers sweep? Yes or no in the chat. Will the Sixers sweep the Brooklyn Nets in the first round? A says no. Austin Baker, yes. Isaac, yes. Black Star, yes. The Sixers will sweep the Nets in the first round. I'm going to go with 4-1. Gentleman sweep. 5 games. Ron says 5 games. JR, gentleman sweep. Goes 380-90. Gentleman sweep. Salvatore, gentleman sweep. Elliot, gentleman sweep. I'm going to go with 4-1. I think there's nobody on that roster that stands a chance at not only at guarding Joel Embiid, but even slowing down Joel Embiid. Joel Embiid is going to manhandle this Brooklyn Nets team in the playoffs. We've only really seen Joel Embiid go 110% a couple of times this season. I think Joel did an amazing job at taking it easy, load managing throughout games, load managing throughout the season. I was frustrated in the beginning of the season, but then I kind of caught up to really what was going on. If you go down to the wire with the Houston Rockets on a Monday in December, and Joel was, finished the game with 5 rebounds and wasn't really guarding the rim or whatever, he didn't care. His goal was the playoffs. But every time there was a big matchup, every time the matchup meant something, ESPN nationally televised game, Denver Nuggets versus the Sixers, he showed up big time, and he gave you a glimpse of what he's going to look like in the playoffs. Joel Embiid is going to come out game 1 and be that monster that you just saw a couple of nights ago when he dropped 52 and outscored the rest of his damn team. He's going to come out and be that monster in the playoffs. And I got bad news for you, Brooklyn Nets fans who are trying to convince yourselves of something. Joel Embiid is going to destroy you in 4 out of 5 games. There's going to be that one game. There's going to be that one game that the Sixers play terribly. There's going to be that one game where they can't hit a 3. There's going to be that one 22% 3-point shooting game. There's going to be that game where they get out hustled, out rebounded, beat in transition, and the Nets are going to steal one. And it's going to be a Mikal Bridges probably 35-point game. There's going to be one of those stinkers. And what's going to happen when that game happens is everybody's going to freak out. The internet's going to go nuts. Sixers fans are going to freak out. Oh my God, Mikal Bridges has a chip on his shoulder. He's going to end the Sixers season in the first round and get the last laugh and all this. They're going to go crazy. There's going to be one of those games, definitely. But it's going to be one. Joel Embiid is going to be completely unstoppable. Tyrese Maxey's going to feed off of the fact that the Nets are going to have to double and triple Joel every time he touches the ball. James Harden is going to feed off of it. They're going to run the 2-man game. The Nets aren't going to know what to do when Harden to try to flash around the screen and Joel rolls. They're going to spam the 2-man game. It's 4-1. The Sixers are going to beat the Nets 4-1. But I will give the Nets one stinker game, and the internet's going to freak out about it. Mikal Bridges is averaging 27 points per game since joining the Brooklyn Nets. Mikal Bridges is a phenomenal young talent, 2-way player. Still can't believe that blank. Brett Brown, interim GM, traded him for a guy that's not even playing in the NBA. Hometown kid. His mom works for the Sixers organization. Ridiculous trade. He's averaging 27. He's going to have that game against us. But, the people that are saying Mikal Bridges and Spencer Dinwiddie's going to drop 50 in the stinker game. Nick 21 says Spencer Dinwiddie's going to drop 50 in the stinker game. I feel you on that too. But the people that are saying the Sixers are going to get bounced in the first round, I think the Sixers have a lot of flaws, but the Sixers have this superstar talent that the Nets can't mess with. Anytime I talk to somebody who doesn't really watch, who hasn't really watched this team in depth throughout the season, and you know, wants to just have a conversation, what do you think about the Sixers, or the Sixers, or are they whatever? I say this. I say the Sixers have a superstar in Joel Embiid who's so dominant that he covers up a lot of their deficiencies, but those deficiencies will come out against certain teams, and unfortunately it's going to be the Boston Celtics in the second round. But the Brooklyn Nets are not going to knock the Sixers out in the first round. It's not something that's going to happen. I can't see that happening. It would have to be a masterclass of implosion by maybe Doc Rivers playing Montrezl Harrell all of the backup center minutes, and everybody's doing a layup line. Maybe he goes George Niang, Montrezl Harrell in a bench lineup. Maybe it would have to be a masterclass of self-destruction for the Sixers to lose to the Nets in this first round. Daniel Wren, Ben Simmons on the bench too. That will motivate. Thanks for the super chat, my man. That will motivate the Sixers to obliterate the Brooklyn Nets. If that's what you meant by that, I completely agree with you on that too. I want to see Joel, dunk on 4 players at the same time and look at Ben on the bench in his dumb little Versace pink and green outfit with his big chain and his dumb sunglasses and whatever else. I would love to see Joel dunk on Ben Simmons in the playoffs, but it's not going to happen because the guy just continues to somehow find a way to get paid to not play basketball. So he has ducked the smoke, and he's just going to continue to duck the smoke for the rest of his career. We don't even get to put it in his face because he just keeps finding a way to not play. But yeah, it'll be nice to smack the Brooklyn Nets while Ben Simmons is sitting on the bench. Ben is a scammer. I believe that. Seth Curry's going to cook us. Seth Curry, Raisin, good comment. Thanks for throwing that out there. Seth Curry, former Sixers player, thrown in the Ben Simmons James Harden trade, dropped 32 on us off the bench a couple of games ago when we played the Brooklyn Nets. He's also that combo guard that the Sixers struggle with. He's also that call for a ball screen, get a wide open 3 player that the Sixers struggle with. And Seth Curry, let's be honest, his last name is Curry. When he's wide open for 3, it's a layup. Seth Curry's better at shooting wide open 3s than I am at shooting actual wide open layups. I bet if we had a competition, I get 100 layups in a row, he gets 100 threes in a row. He makes more threes than I make layups. So I do fear that we're going to struggle a little bit with Seth Curry, and he might have a little bit of a chip on his shoulder because we threw him over to Brooklyn, where nobody cares. The basketball fans in that area are Knicks fans. He loved playing in Philly. He loved the excitement. He loved the intensity. He loved the crowd behind him. And, maybe he does have a little bit of a chip on his shoulder, but there will be games. There will be games where the combo guards, Cam Thomas and Seth Curry and go off on us. There will be a game where Mikal Bridges goes off on us. I'm giving the Nets 1 game, but that's all I'm giving them. 4-1. Brooklyn. What else did I have? Could the Sixers struggle with Cam Thomas? He dropped 46 against us, yesterday. We weren't playing anybody, but it's not like the Sixers have had the greatest perimeter defense in the world this season, in the past couple of seasons. I think Cam Thomas could have some great games too. Some high scoring games. He seems like he can get hot. He seems like he can get on a roll. Yesterday he had a heat check shot in double coverage from like 30 feet out with a hand in his face that went so high the ball wasn't even in the frame of the camera and just dropped in. I was like, oh my God, bro, this dude, he is that guy. He is that bucket getter. He is that another Spencer Dinwiddie-ish players, at least in terms of players that play against the Sixers and go nuts and have career highs. Remember, Gabe Vincent still has both of his career highs against the Philadelphia 76ers. His first one, and then he broke his career high against the Sixers again. That's not random. That means something. So watch out for Cam Thomas in the series. Watch out for Seth Curry. But I'm giving it 4-1 to the Sixers. And then the Boston Celtics series, I don't feel good about at all. I think the Sixers will take a couple. I think we'll have a couple of, ridiculous performances by Joel Embiid. I think Boston will struggle to guard us when we're hitting threes and Joel's moving the ball out of double teams and we're swinging it. And PJ Tucker decides that he's done pump faking and he wants to shoot. But I think the road stops there. And obviously, as we move forward, we'll talk about what I think about, the off season and where we're going to go after that, Celtics series. But yeah, it sucks that it's the Boston Celtics in the second round. But I got 4-1 Sixers over Nets. Nets are only in the playoffs because that's where KD, Kyrie left them. Otherwise, they'd barely be in the play-in. Yeah, I agree with that. Cam Thomas plays less defense than everybody. Fair enough. Does he play less defense than Seth Curry? I don't know about that one. We could actually use Seth Curry for the playoffs. Yeah, everybody could use a Seth Curry for the playoffs. As a Ratty Dubs, thanks for coming through. As a Celtics fan, do you think we win the chip this year? Yeah, there's no reason for them not to. If the Celtics stay healthy and they play the game that they've played for most of the season, they've done a lot of the same things the Sixers have done throughout the season, not care about a bunch of regular season games, blow leads to, lesser teams and play down to competition and everything. But if they stay healthy, I don't see anybody beating the Boston Celtics unless LeBron James makes some kind of magical run with the Lakers, and the Lakers, get fully healthy. And I don't put it past somebody like LeBron James, who's done this for such a long time and is still playing at an elite level at 38 years old. I think in the West, if I was a Western Conference team and we were at the top, I think the Denver Nuggets. Who do Denver Nuggets got in the first round? Is it the Lakers or are the Lakers in the play-in? I don't even remember. But yeah, I would. If I was in the West, I would fear the Lakers. I think more than anybody because they're for the second year in a row, they're like haven't been healthy the whole season, and you just kind of know like if they get healthy, if they make the playoffs and they get healthy, they're just as good as anybody in the Western Conference. And then you got the emergence of Austin Reeves and the fact that he learned how to foul bait like Houston James Harden. I would fear the Lakers the most in the West. So who knows? Maybe you get a Lakers-Celtics NBA Finals. I don't know. The Warriors are always there too when they're healthy. Also, you know what I mean. You can't count out the Golden State Warriors either. But as far as the Sixers, I'm going 4-1 against the Brooklyn Nets in the first round. Game is Saturday, 1 p.m. We will be live on Playback TV. Of course, don't miss that. I'm really excited to live stream the games on Playback TV, the playoff games. I'm really excited for that. So make sure you're tuning in. I think the play-in tournament starts tomorrow. Tomorrow night, I think I'm just going to start streaming because I'm going to stream the playoffs entirely because I'm going to watch the playoffs. So why not stream the playoffs? So tomorrow night on Playback TV, playback.tv/runitbackphilly, we will be live watching the NBA play-in tournament. So tune in for that also. Thank you guys for tuning in to the first iteration of the Run It Back Philly live show, live at 10 a.m. everywhere. YouTube, Twitter, Playback TV. As Playback TV advances and is promoted and gets a discovery page and gives me the opportunity to go full screen and do the show like I'm doing it right now on YouTube and other platforms. That's going to grow. So thank you guys for being in the playback chat. Thank you to everyone that's in the YouTube chat. We'll be back tomorrow at 10 a.m. Run it back, Nation. You the best. Peace.